Coming up in tonight's edition, policy think tank Imani Africa backs government's position that controversial $2 billion bauxite agreement with China is a better arrangement and not a loan as maintained by the NDC minority.
Our culture, when you're talking when you're talking about filing past a dead person, what happens is that you want people to have the opportunity to view the body. But this is covered.
Later, we'll get to hear glowing tributes for former Secretary General Kofi Annan as some Ghanaians raised concerns about the decision not to open casket. But Deputy Information Minister Pius Hajide says the decision to cover the casket with the Ghana flag is to show the world the identity of Mr. Annan. And first day of double track system ends amidst complaints of confusion, slow pace, and some heads abandoning the track system entirely.
It's understandable when you go to the process. It's not like the way we thought when we are not in the process.
Like even if you are illiterate, excuse me for my word, as a parent, if you trip into the school, everything will be smoothly for you.
And in business, the city's marginal stability over the past 2 days might have been short-lived as it now inches closer to the dreaded 5-city mark.
Ghana puts finishing touches to preparation ahead of the hosting of the 2018 African Women's Championship in November as venue LOC is inaugurated in Cape Coast.
And as uncertainty grows over the future of workers of the defunct 5 banks, the minority in Parliament is demanding swift payment of the outstanding salaries and severance packages. After it emerged, 2,000 of them are set to go home.
But the Ghanaian worker is marginalized in the land of his birth. And for me, that is a very poor signal to the rest of the working force. The Ghanaian state has a responsibility, a social responsibility to protect its citizens.
Tonight we'll hear from the Trade Unions Congress that has come under criticism for their silence on the issue. And later on flip side, the battle of the preachers, gospel or prosperity.
Stop sleeping with all the men, hoping that one of them will work. See, nanako, kata, bongo, bongo to, mame, pape, bongo, fire. You don't catch a husband by a bongo fire.
The kitchen said, "What if you mommy and son? No way back home." They say, "Why you mama not so money?" I brought for the name.
Pastor calendar.
Is gospel or prosperity? We'll get to settle that score later on flip side. But do join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp 0244 340 437. I am Emefa Apau.
And my name is Evans Mensah. Details after the break.
Trusted, innovative financial services, providing inflation support and solutions. Customer-oriented, superior services. Your success our assured. Trusted, innovative financial services, providing inflation support and solutions. Customer-oriented, superior services. Your success of assured. 10 good years of loyalty, service with integrity, protective of our Ghanaian brand. 10 years of excellence, 10 years of loyalty. Your success of assured. Oh yeah, your success of assured.
Your success, our passion.
Don't come me. Hey, 10 pesos. 10 pesos. Vodafone is 10 years old and is giving you an anniversary gift of 10 times bonus and 10 pesos call rate across networks. Browse for 10 pesos per megabyte. Call Vodafone or any other network at the same rate of 10 pesos per minute. That's not all. Share your scratch card with 2 more people the Kikimi style, and the 3 of you will each enjoy 10 times the value of your card. Dial *135# to subscribe. Terms and conditions apply.
The future is exciting. Ready?
Hey, Yimshi. I noticed that all the national stadia in Ghana have lasted for decades.
Oh, yes. But do you also know that the concrete bridges are also decades old?
Yes.
Only one company in Ghana can give you that guarantee, and that is Gasem.
Cement that guarantees smooth finishing of plastering.
That is the Gasem Super Rapid 32.5R. If you want to have strong blocks for any form of construction, use Gasem Super Strong 42.5R for your time-tested bridges like the Adome, Mortis multi-story buildings, highways like the motorway, then it is Gasem Extra 42.5N.
And the good news is, all these cement products are made right here in Ghana.
Gasem, 3 cement grades, unique quality. Gasem, the nation builder.
Nationwide Medical Insurance, the leader in private health insurance, has deployed superior technology to make your healthcare experience more convenient and exciting. With the Nationwide mobile app, you can order your prescription drugs and we will deliver to your doorsteps. With over 600 dependable healthcare service providers, you're just a step away locating your service provider of choice and accessing hospital claim information in real time. Our corporate clients are guaranteed timely corporate utilization reports. We provide on-site clinics to give employees access to healthcare in the comfort of their offices. Enjoy these amazing benefits and so much more by signing on to Nationwide Medical Insurance today. Call us on toll-free number 0800-222222 or visit our website www.nationwidemh.com. Nationwide Medical Insurance. Join the healthcare family.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on NewsNite. In our very first story, policy think tank Imani Africa is tonight backing government's position that the $2 billion bauxite agreement with China is a barter arrangement and not a loan. The deal will see China Sinohydro invest heavily in infrastructure across the country. In exchange, Ghana will pay them with proceeds worth $2 billion from our bauxite reserve. The NDC minority in Parliament has petitioned the International Monetary Fund over the matter. The fund has recently indicated that it will make a firm determination on the matter in consultation with the legal department of its headquarters. But even before the IMF decides on the matter, a detailed analysis by Imani Africa of the contract documents approved by Parliament concludes that the deal is certainly not a loan.
Well, we can speak to the president of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Thank you, Mr. Kujo, for your time here on Newsnight.
It's a pleasure, Evans, and your co-host.
You say in the report that the appeal to the IMF by the minority in Parliament may well turn out to justify your position that it is a loan and not a barter, as Parliament had seen in the documents, as the NDC minority itself had argued. Explain that.
Oh, you mean that it is not a straightforward loan? That's what you meant?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we came to that conclusion simply because nothing in the document clearly states that it is a straightforward loan. However, we make the exception. In fact, we make the deduction, given the master project support agreement again, that for this deal to actually to sustain its livelihood or to be able to live its full life, there must be some other arrangement that actually looks like a loan in order to see it through. So we acknowledge the fact that it doesn't clearly state that it's a loan, but if you read carefully the master support agreement itself, there are portions of it that suggest that these deals can only be unlocked on the back of a liquidity plan, which means that government, together with Sinohydro, must come to some terms where an escrow account will be established into which certain receivables from whatever, whether alumina or aluminium, whatever, I don't think Sinohydro cares that much, into that escrow account, and 8.5% of that should be held constantly throughout the tenure of the deal to keep the project alive. So if you look at it carefully, it is not a straightforward loan, but in order to unlock the deal itself, you need to be having a liquidity plan, which we have explained, that given the current arrangement with all the tons of bauxite we produce in a year, we need close to 1 million tons of bauxite in order to see those kinds of receivables to be able to pay back Sinohydro. So, however you look at it, somehow Sinohydro, through these arrangements of asking government and together with it to set up an escrow and look for a bank that can enhance this particular vehicle, in itself creates the conditions and the grounds for some liquidity plan, which indeed would mean that government would have to be looking out for some loan in order to securitize or to unlock the particular deal.
But as far as the documents and the agreements that government submitted to Parliament for consideration and approval, your argument I see is that as far as those specific documents are concerned, there's nothing in there that makes it a loan agreement.
Not quite. It's not straightforward like that at all. Not at all. But you see, it's a very tricky situation because we, as we speak, we do not know whether the government itself, based on what we've deduced from the same document, where they are asking for some liquidity plan, has actually gone ahead to have some sort of a deal arrangement. We don't know that, and I think the government itself needs to ensure that it is briefing the various parliamentary committees and giving them updates as to exactly what they have gone to sign in China. Because for us, from what we are reading, it does appear, it actually does not appear, it is the case that Sino-Hydro, for instance, really may not be interested, because one of the terms that Ghana has agreed to already in advance is a definitive agreement and its willingness to pay the full amount of money billed to it by Sino-Hydro, regardless of whether it manages to obtain enough finance from selling refined bauxite or not. In fact, the whole bauxite element of this arrangement is actually thus incidental. So one part of our conversation is that this barter arrangement in itself has to be clearly defined, because yes, China does believe in securitizing its deals with commodities, but in this case, we need to be sure that whether Sino-Hydro itself is interested in the refinery or the refined alumina or the aluminium itself. And those ones are not pretty clear, because it's straightforward that they are interested in dollars, not necessarily what you mine. So even though what you mine may be useful as part of the conversation, it is clear from the agreement that until you manage to sell, even if you don't sell to Sino-Hydro, they don't care. What they are saying essentially is that have a liquidity support plan, have an escrow, agree with a bank into which you pay receivables, which receivables would have to contain at least $500 million at each point in time in order to pay back the loan. So our estimates are that given the current amount of money we generate actually from bauxite by a private company, which is $40 million, if we really want to unlock this $2 billion loan, what it means is that we need to produce a lot more ore. And a lot more ore would mean that the financial arrangement itself is in the region of about $1 billion in order to unlock 1 million tons of bauxite. So these are our analysis. We are only asking government to come and give us the data upon which they made the assumptions and the liquidity plan, and indeed tell us exactly what they had gone to sign. Because we need to understand it in order to be able to make sure that we do not fall like the other governments, and many African governments are learning rather depressingly, that with the Chinese, if you don't have $1 million, you can't get $1 billion. And if your projects are not viable and profitable, they probably are not Father Christmas, and they wouldn't give you a dime. But whatever it is, we are actually in full support of government to use our resources to do whatever they want to do. We are just not too sure about the data, because the data they are relying on, for instance, to say that we have a $460 billion worth of reserves is actually in 1970, and these were preliminary data done by some scientists. The data has moved on, and it is important that the closer data they should be relying on could have been that which has been done by some private sector operatives. So they must update the data records as well. And we must be sure whether the persons who signed this MOU actually higher up in the Chinese Politburo, for a simple reason. With the Chinese, what we found out over the years, again, is that any deal they sign, whether it's with a private company or a government agency, unless it is approved by the Chinese Politburo, it is just a glorified memorandum.
But a quick answer to that will be that we just saw the president with the president of China, Xi Jinping, signing that document where he was standing behind the president and the other representatives.
Well, pictures do not constitute contract. Don't forget, Arthur Mills, the late Arthur Mills, went to China, took photos, had photo opportunities, and came and told us that 15 billion was coming. In the end, because of our own doing, and not the doing of the Chinese, by the way, we only got about 1.5 billion, because a lot of the other goodies that were in that basket, which was to unlock the CDB loan, unfortunately, were not viable and profitable. So the homework and the onus on coming up with viable and profitable projects actually lies on us, and that has to be true for every single activity.
Yeah.
It's simple value for money analysis, and I'm not sure we are saying that there aren't very thorough people in the government. That's not what we're saying. We are only giving analysis of what we found, and what we are seeing makes us think that originally it is not alone what has been presented, but in the document are final details that mean that you need to find money, which is like finding $1 million to unlock $1 billion. That's a Chinese model.
Yeah, I want you to give me a second. I've just been joined by Mr. Tofosing, who is the ranking member of the Finance Committee. He sent a petition to the IMF on this analysis that Imani had just released. Mr. Tofosing, thank you for your time here on NewsNite.
Thank you, Evans.
Yes, we're just reading from Imani's analysis, and they conclude that I'm quoting, none of the agreements currently before Parliament constitutes a loan agreement. In fact, they state that the appeal that you sent to the IMF, whilst understandable, given the importance for clarity, may well turn out to justify their position that it is it's not a loan. What's your reaction to that?
So, I think they failed to let us know what it is about that Parliament was asked to approve. So maybe you have to ask them to clarify what it is about. Parliament was asked to approve the agreement in line with Section 55(1) and Section 56(1) of the Public Financial Management Act, and then also the Constitution, Article 181. All of them deals with loans. Clearly, the deferred payment agreement in the memorandum, that is what the Parliament asked us to approve, was a loan agreement. So clearly, you may have to ask them to give us a clarity as to what indeed Parliament was asked to approve and what we approved. I think the distinction is clear. One, they asked us to approve the overall master facility agreement and the deferred payment agreement. The deferred payment agreement is a loan, nothing more than that. I think I've stated this position and stated it again. The government is trying to say that it is a barter agreement. It is not a barter agreement because obviously Sino Hydro in question, it is only coming in as a contractor, bringing in a form of a supplier's credit for government of Ghana to sign with them. In the end, government of Ghana will have to service the loan with proceeds of state money. And I repeat, with proceeds of public fund. So public money is state asset, and that is what you are going to use to service it. So what is it about? There's interest rate embedded in the agreement. There is arrangement fee, there's facility fee, and all is going to be a charge on the government. So probably you will have to ask them again to ask us what Parliament approved. Until that time, it's so difficult for me to conclude.
Mr. Kujo, so if it is not a loan, what is it? Hello, Franklin.
Yeah, I'm
yes,
here.
Yes. If it is not a loan, what is it?
Well, you see, it's a bit complex to actually conclude straightforward that it's a loan, because if we read carefully, again, the master project, the MPSA, it states at some point that the term sheet is not a commitment to provide financing, nor shall it be construed as an attempt to define all the terms and conditions of the definitive agreement. Now, it goes on to suggest somewhere that, I think 2.1 under finance, that the creditor shall neither be construed as committed nor be obligated to provide the finance unless financial close has been achieved and each disbursement has been remitted by the financier. Now, if you read these carefully, again, this is confusion in our minds, by the way, and we believe that if you read these two things, what I just read to you, that it cannot be construed clearly
to be alone.
As an obligation to provide financing unless financial close has been achieved.
Because of the technicality of it, I just want to ask
the financier. What it is really is that until the receivables from whatever arrangement, whether alumina, processing bauxite into alumina or into aluminium has been done, it doesn't, that's at the point at which you start possibly to start paying the money. But we also admit that for this deal to actually to be sustained and live its full life, given the vicissitudes of bauxite mining and the fact that it is a heavily financially draining enterprise, government would have to go and look for money
to pay.
In our estimation, about $1 billion. Now, if it starts after the grace period of 3 years, if it's not able to start paying those monies to Sino Hydro after 3 years, then our debt situation, in fact, would be having a lot of problems.
Okay, so that's an important point. But
you see,
interesting.
That's where to some extent, now it does look like yes, this arrangement could be a loan, but definitively there's no loan agreement as far as we understand it. But we are saying quickly that to make this deal work, given the financial outlay that
you still have to look for cash
for this type
to pay.
of investment, you have to look for cash.
Okay.
And if you default, you've got to start paying money. So in those terms, yes, it could be seen also as a loan.
Interesting.
It's a very tricky situation. We need more.
I'll acknowledge that. I guess if the IMF itself in this statement says it's a complex one, and we'll see where that determination is made and where that takes us. But today, if you are a mom or a dad and you have children like MF does, and they are about to go to school in the senior high school level, you probably will be dealing with double track, green and yellow.
Gold. Okay, so it finally
and
took
gold.
off today, in spite of a huge number of fresh students yet to be put on any of the tracks at all, whether green or gold. In all, about 423,000 students were expected to join continuing students in various senior high schools across the country for the 2018-2019 academic year. Now, Joy News correspondents were out there today, and they've given mixed reactions from parents, school authorities, and students. In the Central Region, for instance, 2 schools, Wesley Girls Senior High School and University Practice SH in Cape Coast, have adopted their own way of making the multi-track system work. It's interesting. Let's hear from the 2 school heads. They've been interacting with correspondent Richard Kojonyako.
We saw that if we were going to run the tracking system by the divisions as we were told to do, it was going to create a lot of problems. You will see that if you even after track 1 or A, or what do you call it, the green, you see that it will be very difficult for us to find enough teachers for track 2 or the gold. So we thought it wise to do the tracking system by program, where program means we run all the programs, all of them will come at the same time. Then the second time we run another program. We saw that when we do it, that we have a better management of the number of teachers as human resource for the program than to divide them, So
you realize that people have traveled so far away, some from even the north, to come here. So I've explained at least that you should let them be seen at least earlier so that some of them can go back. And I pleaded with the gold track that they should, since track A, the green has already reopened, and they should start school today. They should allow us to serve them first. When we finish, you can see today B, but everybody should get the placement ready so that everybody will be catered for. Our ICT teachers are liaising with free SHS in Accra, so everything is going on smoothly. You realize that somebody who should be in track A is in track B, or maybe somebody who is in track B should be in A. So all these anomalies are being corrected.
So you heard from the heads of the schools of the Wesley Girls Senior High School and University Practice SHS. Are you confused?
I have always been on this particular subject. And in the Ashanti region, Love FM's Ohim Interior reports that the process has been pretty smooth there. Here's his report.
Like all senior high schools, Kumasi Academy was faced with registration challenges when the free senior high school policy was introduced last year. Authorities had tough time registering over 900 students posted to the school. Some parents who traveled from other regions were forced to spend several days in an attempt to register their wards. But thanks to school authorities, the situation has changed for the better. Instead of spending long hours and days, they now spend less than 10 minutes or less for the same exercise.
Oh, Bibia, Daddy, Boko, Kama. We've
gone through the registration exercise smoothly. Because we are anticipating encountering some challenges, we left home at dawn. But to our surprise, the situation is different here. The process is smooth here at Kumaka. One is not required to pay money before he is attended to. We arrived on campus about an hour ago, but in no time we are done with registration exercise. Once we are done, we will soon leave for the house.
It's very, very easy. I've just arrived with my son. Less than 10 minutes, I've finished all the process. As for Kumasi Academy here, everything has been fast. The teachers are fast. They receive you nicely. You go through all the necessary process. The process here is very easy.
As you heard the Ohim Interiors report, now Nancy Amefadredosi visited a number of schools here in Accra and reports that the process was also generally without any hitches. Here's her report.
Here at the Accra Senior High School, the process so far, for what we've seen, has been a little smooth because our interaction with some of the parents have been diverse. I mean, some are saying the process has been smooth, others are saying that the process is a little frustrating. But the queue that is lined up here is for those who have not been placed. In fact, those who did self-placement, they have been forced to join this particular group.
06741, and I have to add 18. Quality, Stephen, business. All right. I'm verifying whether it's really here, and it is true. So I've gone through the system, and the name is here, or he has been brought to the school. So I'm giving him the go-ahead to be admitted.
Parents who spoke to Joy News admitted having challenges with understanding what the double track system meant, but are satisfied after going through the process.
It was when we came here in the morning, we met a lot of crowd. When the process starts taking place, it moved very fast. It's understandable. When you go to the process, it's not like the way we thought when we are not in the process.
Initially, it was a troublesome stuff, but now I think they've rectified those problems and everything. Like, even if you're illiterate, excuse me for my word, as a parent, if you trip into the school where your ward get it or being placed, everything will be smoothly for you.
You heard there's some parents and school authorities here in Accra. Now, meanwhile, more importantly, Evans, the Conference of Assistant Heads of Schools, CHAS, is raising red flags about funds that are yet to be released, as well as teachers that are yet to be recruited. We've been speaking to Reverend Abraham Osei Donko, but we'll get to that shortly. But we've been joined on the phone by Vincent Ekosifwa. He speaks for the Education Ministry. Thank you very much for your time here on NewsNite. So it's day one of the double track system. What will the assessment of the Education Ministry be?
Well, a very good evening to you and your cherished listeners. Indeed, today has been one of the days that we expected. Of course, it could be tiring, and indeed, on the part of the Ministry of Education, we had to make sure that all of us from the Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, Free SHS Secretariats were on the ground to make sure that at least we have a feel of the first day of the implementation of the double track. In general, we can say that everything is going on well. And the few challenges, we are trying as much as possible to deal with it as and when it comes.
Well, so we've had in Cape Coast, for instance, at least two schools, Wesley Girls and University Practice. We are told that the heads of schools have actually not entirely abandoned the process, but they feel that there is another way to making it better. Do they have your blessing as an education ministry?
Maybe I did not get your, but if you seem to suggest that if Wesley Girls and the other school
Well, so I'll clarify. For instance, if you are doing home econs or you're doing sciences, they are categorizing certain subjects and giving them, making them be in the green track instead of them being in the gold track. So students have been placed in both tracks, but they decide on when you have to come to school, depending on the subject or course that you're taking. They have your blessing?
Right. I think that I have seen or heard about similar challenges from other schools. But it's just a matter of communication, and the system will have to be run based on how GES policy guidelines as far as the double track is concerned. And so clearly, I think that the headmistress of the various schools will have to, as it were, try as much as possible to establish contact with the district director of education in the particular region or district, or better so the regional education office, for us to find an amicable way of dealing with this particular problem, because it was one of the guidelines of the Ministry of Education that students will have to be placed based on green or gold. And that one we have done our deployment on that level. That is why I'm saying that some of these ones are just some few fallouts that will come out of the system. But going forward, we'll find a way to deal with those challenges.
It remains a huge burden also for CHAS, for instance. Funds have still not been released, and we're told that there are over 8,000 teachers that you're supposed to recruit. Have you recruited them already?
Well, it's true that funds have not been released, as we speak, but it is also true that there's a process for funds to be released to the various senior high schools. The basis, or one of the first processes for funds to be released to the various senior high school, is for the free SHS secretariats to receive what we call the signed list. And so while the students are now signing on to the free senior high school or the double track system, the signed list that are supposed to be provided by the headmasters or the headmistress, the various schools will have to be furnished with the free SHS coordinator or the free SHS secretariat, so that payments or onward payments could be made. And so that is what we are waiting for. So we have managed to be quick on this particular process, so that we will know that these are the students who have been there, but these are the students who have been able to report, so that we can make payments based on the students who have been able to report.
And the recruitment of the teachers, briefly?
Well, for the teachers, I can say that as of yesterday, I knew that processes were far advanced in making sure that we recruit these teachers. You know, there was a commitment on the part of the Ministry of Education when we were starting the double track, or when we were engaging with us in the public on the double track system, that one of the criteria, one of the key principles of the double track is for us to be able to make sure that we employ more teachers or recruit more teachers into the system. And I know that you remember there was a statement from the Education Service requesting for applications to be made to that effect. We've been able to receive a number of them, which we are still working on. I'm sure in some few days or weeks to come, you'll be able to hear from the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service as to those who were able to qualify. These are the criteria that we're able to set out.
Okay, so the system has started, but teachers are yet to be recruited. Thank you very much for your time, Vincent Asifua. We're grateful for your time. He speaks for the Ministry of Education. We'll take some of your comments that you've sent in via WhatsApp on 0244340437. And this one from Kofi Mensah in Teshinungwa. It says, what will happen in the event that government is not able to raise enough money from bauxite as planned?
Well, that's Kofi Mensah's question there. Michael Amining says, though there may be initial challenges for the implementation of the double track system, but as a matter of fact, the government of President Akufo-Addo deserves the needed commendation for thinking outside the box to absorb about 180,000 JSS graduates. Musa Abacha in Kumasi says, Evans, I entirely agree with Frankly. Government cannot deceive Ghanaians. Is Chinese giving us the money for free? Day for the Christmas, something that's given for you is given for you to pay back with interest is what Ghana deserves better. Those are some of your views, and I want to hear from you parents. And in fact, if you are a SHS student, please share your thoughts with us on how today has been. First day in school. The WhatsApp number I had MF announced earlier, 0244340437. And of course, when we return from business, we will be live to the International Conference Center where the illustrious son of Ghana, Kofi Annan, is lying in state. Plus, we'll hear from Parliament's Employment Committee where there is a demand for government to pay workers severance packages. George Yafe is here with the latest from the world of business. And George, remember your first day at Presec? You remember your first year?
I do. I mean, bullying be hot.
Yeah.
they just.
And for what school did you go again?
Ola Girls, really.
Okay. The School of Choir, singers. What do you remember your first? Do you remember? I mean, Ola in guys, you're singing.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember your first day in school?
Yes, I do. I went to a boarding school from infancy, so it was nothing new actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just walked in and your name was there.
I just found my way around.
Nobody bullied you.
No, I went to boarding house when I was 5 years old. So
5 years.
Yes, 5 years old. So I know. I'm a tough
Oh,
girl.
now I understand.
And the local boarding Sheikh Borough. But Evans, there's this saying that make hay whilst the sun shines. Take advantage of that good thing that is happening. But it looks like when it comes to the city, you have to hold on, because over the past 2 days, we saw some marginal stability, and it looks like we've lost it. So we are now getting closer to the dreaded 5 city mark, and I'll be giving you more details on that. And also be finding out from the former finance minister why we couldn't realize all the $3 billion from the Chinese government. The business news on NewsNite is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And Mark Auto Parts, the distributors of Chevy cars.
In this part of the world, we rise early, way before the sunrise. We plan, we pray, we prep, just so we are a step ahead. We keep the conversations going to stay connected to family, friends, and business. They say, Agrobeswa Ifrianopa. Start your day bright with MTN Kokroko. For only 1 Ghana cedi, you can enjoy 400 megabytes of data and 30 minutes of free MTN to MTN calls every day from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. everywhere you go. Dial *138# to buy MTN Kokroko bundle now.
The Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited's Back to School promotion is here with us again. From the 1st of August to the 30th of September, Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited is giving a generous 10% discount on all school items like textbooks, pens, pencils, erasers, exercise books, and much more across all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Cape Coast. Parents, teachers, and students, please hurry while stocks last. For more information, call us on 0302 764 101 or 0302-764-209 or email info@kingdomgh.com. You can also visit our website www.kingdomgh.com. Kingdom Books, where quality and affordability are both assured. Terms and conditions apply.
That is a sweet sound of excellence. That is the sound from Mac. Yes, Mac Ghana is the #1 distributor of the world's best quality Isuzu and Chevrolet vehicles in Ghana. Isuzu trucks from 1.5 tons to heavy-duty vehicles. Isuzu buses from 15 to 33 seaters, double and single cabin pickup, available in automatic and manual transmissions. We also stock a wide range of Chevy cars from SUVs, sedans, and small cars, fully loaded with exquisite specifications. All our range of vehicles stand out due to its high fuel efficiency, safety, luxury, spacious interior, world-class delivery, and after-sales servicing. What's more, we offer flexible payment terms to meet your pockets. Mark Ghana is a sole distributor for Isuzu trucks and pickups, as well as all range of Chevrolet cars in Ghana. Call us on 0302-813-919 in Accra or 0242-039-550 in Kumasi. Visit our website markghana.com. Mark Ghana, with you for the long run.
Joy 99.7 FM.
You welcome back to Business on Newsnight. And the recent marginal stability recorded on the interbank market for the Ghana cedi might have been short-lived. Now, this is because the local currency is now back on that path to depreciating against the dollar. We have details of this development in this report.
The 4 cedis 96 per Swiss is the rate most of the big banks in the forex business. The 4 cedis 96 per Swiss is the rate most of the big banks in the forex business are offering to their clients when it comes to dollar transactions for them. Let's note that is not the official rate in the country, but this is what the banks are trading with on the ground. Some of the currency players have told Joy Business that the intervention by the Bank of Ghana last Friday actually helped hold the cedi rate from hitting the dreaded 5 cedi mark on Monday. The local currency appears to be finding the right levels now. Players in the currency business have maintained that the current problems with the cedi is basically due to a surge in demand by businesses but limited supply of dollars from managers. So unless there is adequate supply on the market, it might be difficult for some of these interventions to bring about the desired results.
And that was a Business Desk report. Meanwhile, the Institute of Freight Forwarders are making a strong case for government to stop its agencies from pricing their services in dollars at the various ports. Now, checks by Joy Business show that most of these agencies are pricing in dollars against the Bank of Ghana directive, which actually bars them from undertaking such activity. President of the Institute of Freight Forwarders, Kovno Foswapia, says development is really hurting them and government should act now.
If you have a situation that is propped up by the state, where by the end of every Monday, it is anticipated that our cedi will be weak, for which reason the dollar rate will have to change in anticipation for duty collection from Tuesday. What do you think will happen when you cannot guarantee for the trader to hedge his expectation, even on something that you had control over? They will have to be sat down. They will tell you their bit of the story why they must do what they are doing in that manner. But I think that is why we have the government. Things should not just be left like that. You know, we understand that in the economic model that we practice, it is pushed by demand and supply. We understand that we are in a free market. But even in the freest of markets, you see what Donald Trump is doing in the United States. He's not allowing things to just free fall like that.
Now, we also understand that some of these agencies are actually using their own rates and not even going with what the Bank of Ghana is quoting. Now, Finance Minister Tekpe has been trying to give reasons why the country couldn't secure all the $3 billion from the Chinese government. Now, Ghana in 2011 secured a facility to help support infrastructure projects in the country. However, just little over $1 billion came in. Let's hear from Mr. Tekpe.
As I said, the Chinese are smart. You know, they and I mean smart in that sense, right? So remember that when you face the Chinese technically, it's not just the World Bank or the IMF that's concerned about your debt to GDP ratio. They're also looking at those things. Many people don't get that. I think the issues are complex, you know, particularly when we wanted to do the additional 1.5 billion. You know that what we have is a commodity backbone loan, you know, which we give crude oil prices. And we insist that, you know, we'll not give them crude oil, you know, materially. But the crude oil should be sold at Brent and the money paid in. So if you are asking for additional loans and crude oil prices have tanked from $115 per barrel to 48 or 45, they are beginning to look at your capacity, you know, in terms of the flows that are going in. So these are some of the technical considerations which, you know, may not be obvious because we may think that the Chinese give out cheap loans. No, they don't. They look at all the fundamentals.
Former Finance Minister said Tekpe, the Republic Bank says it is in discussions with another financial institution to actually acquire it. The bank maintained that this move should be seen as more of a growth strategy since they've already actually met the 400 million cedi capital requirement for banks to actually achieve by December this year. Let's hear more from the Managing Director of the bank, Anthony Jordan.
It's in embryonic stage and nothing has been done as yet. These things are all done in confidence, confidentially.
And are you in talks with any? Not mentioning names, but are you in talks or you are working to talk with someone?
Yeah, banks that have wanted to speak with us, we have spoken.
So you are in talks with some banks?
We have had discussions.
Okay.
I don't know where the discussions will lead or will go, but I'm saying that we will not walk away or turn away from any value proposition where that is concerned, because we are ambitious, and like I said, if we think that there is a fit there, and it has, of course, the blessings of the regulatory authorities and all the other requirements, it's something that we will be prepared to consider.
So that's Anthony Jordan, Managing Director of Republic Bank, talking about the fact that they are in talks to actually acquire another bank as a growth strategy because they've already met the 400 million cedi capital requirement for commercial banks to achieve by December Back to you, Evans.
George, thank you very much. Now, it's official. 2,000 workers of the defunct 5 banks will be unemployed by the end of this month.
Almost 3,000 of them will also have to justify their inclusion in the bank as it nears the completion of its rationalization process. Now, officials of the Consolidated Bank, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, and the Employment and Labour Relations Ministry reached the agreement yesterday after a marathon meeting, you'll recall. Other outstanding issues like severance and salary payment for the month of July and August, however, remain unresolved. The minority is unhappy with the development and is demanding government and the Bank of Ghana take a strong stance to protect the interests of the affected workers. We'll soon hear from the ranking member on the Employment Committee, Dr. Kwabena Donkor. But first, here's Deputy Employment Minister Bright Rekrubube on NewsNite yesterday.
In total, which I would say, for want of a better word, they inherited close to about 4,000 staff, and they have to rationalize and do all that. So roughly, they were looking at, let's say, about 1,000 or more. So, we would not say all the 4,000 or so staff would be or will be losing their jobs as it is being speculated. Some sizable number, obviously, are going to get their jobs retained.
On the specifics about how many jobs will be lost, do you know for sure how many jobs will be lost?
Well, for sure, if we got the numbers right, I must say, of the total, I think we have. Let me put my papers together. Yes, we were looking at the numbers in the region of 2,985 staff.
You have Deputy Employment Relations Minister Bright Rekrubube, but we can now speak to the ranking member on the Employment and Social Welfare Committee of Parliament, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who is obviously unhappy about the development or the outcome of that meeting. Thank you very much for your time here on NewsNight, Dr. Kwabena Donkor. So what are really your concerns?
Well, thank you to you and thank you to your listeners. My concern has been two major issues. We've come to this stage because of the failure of Bank of Ghana as a regulator. The biggest cause of the financial crisis is regulatory failure. And Bank of Ghana as a regulator seems to be going scot-free. That is my number one concern. My number two concern is the Ghanaian worker. We have a responsibility as a state to protect workers from such unlawful terminations that are taking place. The workers were contracted by various banks. They are being transferred en masse to a new entity. Their entitlements under their former contracts of employment have not been sorted out. And they are being laid off like graffiti. And as a nation, if we cannot protect the Ghanaian in his own homeland, who else can we protect? If Bank of Ghana had been up and doing over the years, we would not have gotten into this situation. And yet we are not hearing of firings at Bank of Ghana. In any case, Bank of Ghana made money from the liquidity support it gives to some of the banks. From Capital Bank alone, it made 255 million cedis in interest payments.
Well, but so speaking to the deputy minister, for instance, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, some assurances were given, even though a lot of jobs will be lost in the process. Some assurances were given by him, saying that indeed the receiver and of course the Consolidated Bank should still be in talks and make sure that they address the issues. Even the ICU, for instance, they were happy about the outcome of the meeting.
Look, the Consolidated Bank has no business addressing severance. The Consolidated Bank is a new entity. The workers were not working for Consolidated Bank. They were working for the various banks. The regulator, Bank of Ghana, has the responsibility of ensuring that they receive their severance pay. Consolidated Bank came out to say that, look, they were not their staff. If you take their July and August salaries, they've not been paid.
So for you, the Ghanaian worker is not being protected as they ought to?
No.
Okay.
The Consolidated Bank, for example, is saying that in July and August, the staff were not working for the bank, and therefore they have no obligation to pay them. They've not been paid, and
Oh.
some of them have not been paid their salaries.
So at this point, what more can the state do to protect the Ghanaian worker, you'd say?
Yes, the Ghanaian state must do more. We must do more. In other jurisdictions, they take financial institutions are made by law to take insurance and other risk mitigation measures so that when things like this happen, workers will not suffer. The worst people off in this whole thing are the workers. The regulator, whose the election of duty calls this, is virtually going scot-free. The Kenyan worker must feel that he or she is protected by the state in his or her homeland. This is what brings about patriotism and national pride. If we can throw 4,000, I'm told by the end of this month, 2,000 workers from the consolidated group will be fired. If we can just throw them out this way, how do you expect patriotism from Ghanaian workers?
We're grateful for your time, Dr. Kwabena Donko there. He's the ranking member on the Employment and Social Welfare Committee of Parliament. Time now for sports. Baba Tando.
The lady in black.
Hi,
Morning,
morning,
Kofi
aren't
Annan.
we?
Yes, we are.
But there's reason to smile. I'm sure Evans and MFA, tell me, do you still have doubts that the 2018 Women's AFCON will be hosted by Ghana?
Yeah,
are you clear in your thinking now?
It's unsetting, I guess.
Okay, so this is for you.
I can assure you that the tournament is here. And whatever needs to be done from government side to make sure that we are fully prepared to the satisfaction of CAF and FIFA, we will do so. And that is why it's taking us to move in the numbers that you've seen today to come both from the LOC and from the ministries, and to make sure that we put the structures that we need to have a successful tournament in place. And that is what we're doing. I can assure the Ghanaian public that we have the tournament. What we need to do is to make sure that the preparatory works that need to be done are done. And most importantly, what we need is the support of the Ghanaian people when the tournament begins.
So that was Deputy Sports Minister Perry Okujeto assuring the football-loving public that Ghana still holds the right to host this year's Women's AFCON. Now, we're putting finishing touches to preparations ahead of the tournament in November. Earlier today, a 6-member committee was inaugurated to see to the running of the tournament in one of the 2 chosen venues, that is Cape Coast. Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Perry Okujeto affirmed that everything was in place for Ghana to host the rest of Africa from November 17 to December 1 for the Women's Championship.
I am confident that within the time that is left, we can be able to get all the venues ready for the tournament. You're going to see us a few more times in Cape Coast, making sure that everything that needs to be done is done before the tournament. This is a very important platform for us as a nation and as a government. It is very prestigious to get or win or get the opportunity to host a tournament like this. The eyes of the world when it comes to women's soccer will be on Ghana, and therefore it is our responsibility to make sure that we are prepared and we have a successful tournament.
Now, as part of efforts to see them host and win the tournament, the Black Stars will be embarking on a regional tour to whip up interest and seek support of Ghanaians before, during and after the tournament. Perry Okujeto is encouraging the nation to rally behind the team.
The Black Queens are going to go on a tour of the country. They are going to different parts of the country. They are going to play friendly games across the country. They will be in Kumasi, in Sunyani, in Techiman, in Tamale. They will be here in Cape Coast for a couple of days, playing games in Elmina and in Takrady. All of this is geared towards making sure that we whip up the needed support for our team, because for us and from our side, we want to host and win. What we need is for the community to support us.
Right, so talking about that regional tour, it starts from tomorrow, Wednesday, September 12th, and it will begin from Kumasi, and it would end on Monday, September 23. At Tamale. So they will go to Kumasi, that's the Ashanti region, Teshiman, the Bona Hafa region, and Tamale in the Northern region. We'll bring you more in our subsequent sports bulletins. Evans and MFR.
Thank you very much, Baba. Now, persons from all walks of life today thronged the Accra International Conference Center to pay their last respect to former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. However, some of them left disappointed as the casket remained closed. Deputy Information Minister Pius Hajide has been explaining in this report filed by Maxwell Agbagba.
Some choristers sing solemn songs from the upper terrace of the foyer at the Accra International Conference Center. Family members are seated as hundreds of Ghanaians file past the remains of the former UN Secretary General. Asantehene bestowed the title Busumuru on Kofi Annan. An Asante historian and researcher Osei Bunso Safo Kantanka says the title is one of the biggest recognitions.
Busumuru is one of the swords, the state swords of the king of Ashanti, Asantehene. And that is the highest of all the swords, which is attached to the golden stool. That is his title. Otumfuo himself uses the title Busumuru. Busumuru Hene, or the chief responsible for the Busumuru sword. So peaceful a person that his umbrella is even white.
Hundreds of Ghanaians have thronged the Accra International Conference Center to pay their last respect to the former UN Secretary General. Well, some of them who came here left disappointed because they were unable to see the remains of the late Secretary General of the United Nations. One of them is a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Professor Ransford Jampu. He said, culturally and traditionally, it defeats the purpose of a far past.
One thing that I'm not too happy about is that our culture, in our culture, when you're talking about filing past a dead person, what happens is that you want people to have the opportunity to view the body. But this is covered. I mean, this is so foreign. I know it isn't everybody who is comfortable viewing a dead body, so those who cannot view, it's fine. But there are so many people who have heard about him, they know him from far away. This is the only time they want to see the person. And so they should open the casket and let people view the body. I think that is what we know as our culture. Covering it is not part of our culture.
Deputy Minister of Information Pius Hajide says the funeral planning committee decided not to open the casket, but rather drape it in the national colors to show the world the identity of the late Secretary General.
I'll seize this moment to show that this is a Ghanaian affair.
You heard the Deputy Minister of Information, Pius Hajide there. We can also hear tributes from his former schoolmates who've been speaking to Fifi Kumsin as part of a Joy News documentary.
Kofi Annan Secondary School in Fantipim was founded by British Methodist missionaries in 1876. And here is where many of the stories about Mr. Annan's political leadership, fun and pun, started.
At school, there was nothing to distinguish Kofi from any other child in the school.
Dr. Andrew Anane Akutu, a retired civil servant at the UN, was Mr. Annan's schoolmate at Infantipim. He remembers so vividly their time on campus back in the day.
He was a very good athlete, but he was a very good sprinter. And later on, I learned when he went to the States and so on, he was even competing in the States as a sprinter.
While on campus, Kofi Annan was deeply involved in the political leadership, becoming the opposition leader of the mock parliamentary elections of Infantipim. That earned him the nickname Domo.
For mock political parties and elected members to assemblies and so on. And Kofi was elected the deputy leader of the opposition. And in those days, opposition people were called generally Domo. So Kofi acquired the nickname Domo. Up till his passing, amongst our close friends, we called him Domo.
One of Kofi Annan's noticeable achievements at Infantipim was to lead a protest against poor quality of food in the dining hall.
He happened to be the leader of a small group of students who were protesting perhaps more loudly than others. And this came to the notice of the headmaster, Bartels.
F.L. Bartels then called him to his office and said, "I understand you have something to do with all the strike nonsense. If you have an issue to discuss, come to me and we'll discuss it man to man. you are reasonably intelligent. Given the chance, you may become a useful member of society. That was the prophecy.
So the full documentary will air on Thursday on the Super Morning Show here on Joy 99.7 FM. It's time now for Flip Side.
Yes, and today we stay within the churches. You know, since last week we've been doing a lot from the churches. Prosperity or salvation gospel. Where do you stand on that?
Salvation.
Okay.
It has to be salvation.
Prosperity for me. Now, there's been a debate of sort about what the church should be preaching today. Now, the concern is that preachers of today have a bearing focus on prosperity. Well, my retort to that is, what's wrong with that? But listen to founder of the Sudanaba Ministries, Reverend Sudanaba and Opambo, at one of their services. We'll end with that. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am MFAPO.
Laddie, stop sleeping with all the men. Stop lying with this one, lying with that one, lying with that one.